Formula One returns to the land of the rising sun as three-quarters distance in the season has passed and the drivers and teams arrive at one of their favourite tracks on the calendar. Suzuka lies some 200 miles southwest of Tokyo on the main island of Honshu. And in this high-tech nation, the area is both the site of a major railway interchange and a manufacturing base for big companies such as Honda, who decided to create a test track here, which has hosted some 29 Grand Prix until now. It has barely changed, in fact, the Suzuka layout since the very first race in 1987, and Hamilton's gain of 12 seconds over Berger's original pole demonstrates Formula One's development at a venue that always hosts some amazingly passionate fans. Well, the track itself is fast and flowing, but it is relatively narrow and it's definitely unforgiving. Any lapse in concentration can have big consequences. The lap record still stands from Kimi Raikkonen's remarkable win from 17th on the grid in 2005, but it may come under threat in sunny conditions that we have here today. Turn 1's always been key at the start of the race, as Prost and Senna demonstrated in 1990 in one of their famous confrontations, while the so-called 130R corner saw Alonso display his inner racing demons in passing Michael Schumacher in 2005. And the final chicane saw another historic moment in 1989 when Prost and Senna first collided in a title-deciding incident. We saw a mix of tyres used in qualifying yesterday, but of the top 10, only the Mercedes and Romain Grosjean start on the mid-range soft tyre. The others will be on the more fragile super soft. Outside the top 10, they'll still have that choice. So let's take a look at the full grid lineup. Hamilton starts on his 80th ever pole position, having won 70 Grand Prix. It's an 8th front row for Valtteri Bottas. Max Verstappen lines up third, having had one win so far this year. But this race has never been won from the second row. That's a note for Kimi Raikkonen as well. Romain Grosjean starting in 5th, and Brendan Hartley is best ever qualifying in 6th. Pierre Gasly seeing two Honda-powered cars in the top 10. Sebastian Vettel, though, there he is in 8th. A lot of work to do. Sergio Perez in 9th place, and Charles Leclerc promoted to 10th due to a penalty for Esteban Ocon, who therefore lines up in 11th place. Alongside him, Kevin Magnussen in the second Haas. Carlos Sainz is 13th on the grid. Close battle between Renault and Haas. Lance Stroll is 14th in the Williams. 15th place for Daniel Ricciardo, had a throttle problem in qualifying. Nico Hülkenberg is 16th. Sergei Sorokin only been in the points on one occasion this year. Fernando Alonso did a great lap in qualifying, but the car very slow. His teammate at the back of the grid, Stoffel van Dorn, lines up in the back with Marcus Ericsson in the Sauber in 20th place. He crashed out in Q1, of course, so that's why he is at the back. They've also had to change some engine parts, so he's got penalties, but it makes no difference. Marcus Ericsson will be starting as last man on the grid. But otherwise, it's pretty much as they qualified. But what conditions we have today. So different from what we had yesterday when we had the rain, the dry, clouds overhead. But today it's glorious sunshine and a beautiful day to be sitting out in the grandstands to watch what should be a spectacular race. And this man might provide some of the entertainment because he's got to come from a long way back. 15th place on the grid for him. It's going to be tough. The 30th running of a Grand Prix at Suzuka will soon be underway in stunning conditions here in Japan. Lewis Hamilton has won 70 races in his career. 49 of those have been with Mercedes, and he's aiming for his 50th with them today, starting from pole position. The final formation lap is underway, and as they set off, we know that the top two are starting on the soft tyre, the mid-range soft tyre. I can tell you that further down the field, a lot of drivers have gone for that same type of tyre, the mid-range yellow-walled soft tyre. One driver, Nico Hülkenberg, is starting on the hardest compound, and he starts down in 16th position, of course. So tyres will be crucial here today with these high track temperatures. Karun, looking into this race, it's still possible that they can make it a one-stop, but it's just going to depend on tyre life, isn't it?
Yes, Ben, exactly. As Christian told David on the grid, it's on the bubble. I think really it's going to come down to how quick or slow Mercedes decide to go in that first stint. And can they afford to do that? Because obviously they're going to have Verstappen in the mix. If Verstappen piles the pressure on, he's going to damage his tyres, but he's got to have a go because, otherwise it's over and done with. So I think the first lap is really critical for Max Verstappen to try and get somewhere in amongst those two Mercedes.
That's right. Well, into the hairpin, we can see the cars on this final formation lap. The two Toro Rossos going through, having done a great job in qualifying, and a lot of Honda supporters, of course, with a big factory just down the road here in Suzuka. So they will have a massive amount of support, and they are lining up in 6th and 7th place on the grid for the Toro Rossos. So there's some of the predicted pit stop strategies, looking at single stop strategies there, which is still the favoured option for everybody. You don't want to add in an extra pit stop if you can avoid it, because then you have to do more overtaking on track, and this is a tough track on which to overtake, no denying it. 50 points then, the advantage for Lewis Hamilton over Sebastian Vettel. Coming into this race, Valtteri Bottas just 3 points ahead of Kimi Räikkönen. Verstappen very lonely really in 5th place. Further down there's some big battles going on between the likes of Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg. Both have qualified outside the top 10 on this occasion, so the best of the rest group is quite interesting. And in the constructors' points, also Force India and Toro Rosso were all still pretty close, and there's a great chance for Toro Rosso here today to score double points finish with both their cars.
Well, there was a bit of conversation on the radio, Lewis Hamilton and his engineers, about the clutch engagement off the start. And Lewis has been told to release the clutch a little more quickly and apply a bit more throttle based on what he did at the end of the pit lane. So they're constantly tweaking the procedures right up to the start. And as I mentioned, Ben, they'll all have to hold their foot on the brake because the elevation change and run down to turn 1 is enough to see the car roll out of position if you didn't do so.
Takes a little while for the final part of the grid to come down into position, and we know at the back we've got Fernando Alonso 18th, Van Dorn 19th, Ericsson 20th, but up front it's Lewis Hamilton, who's lining up at a very slight angle. Yeah, and also Max Verstappen behind him has really got the car angled as if he's going to try and slot between those two Mercedes cars. So it could be a fun opportunity this for Max Verstappen. Remember, Verstappen from 3rd starts on the softer compound tyre. Daniel Ricciardo, he starts all the way down in 15th place. He's got plenty of work to do to cut his way through the order here. Hamilton on the right as we look at it. Valtteri Bottas on the left in this Mercedes 1-2. We're waiting for the start of the Japanese Grand Prix. Lights out, away we go. Both Mercedes get away, but Max Verstappen's going to go on the attack. You can bet it, down into the first corner. They're going to tow each other, the two Mercedes, and they're into the first corner ahead. Hamilton's got the advantage over Valtteri Bottas. Vettel is going side by side with Pierre Gasly. Further down the order, crucial of course for Sebastian Vettel to have a good lap, and he's gone round the outside of Gasly, but he's still got the Haas of Romain Grosjean ahead of him. But nonetheless, that's a good start for Sebastian Vettel, so he's got himself into 6th place already as Verstappen chases after those two Mercedes. So Vettel, how quickly can he get past the Ferrari-powered Haas car? Kimi Räikkönen is chasing after Max Verstappen. Räikkönen in 4th position there, and this opening lap so crucial. The two Force Indias are following. We've got Perez ahead of Ocon. Ocon, of course, was pushed back on the grid with a penalty after qualifying yesterday, and they are now following one another. And it's Hartley who's lost a few places. Oh, and it can move up the inside for Ricciardo there.
Yeah, Daniel's slotting up the inside of Magnussen. Was it Magnussen?
And side by side, Vettel trying to go past Grosjean. He's going to try and go around the outside into Spoon. And that was a brave move early on.
That was very brave. At one point there, it looked like Grosjean wasn't really going to give Vettel much room. But an attacking opening lap here from Vettel. And surely that now paves the way for Räikkönen to move out and allow him a run at Max Verstappen, who's got his mirrors full of the Ferrari.
Well, that is a good start indeed, and Räikkönen's going on the attack of Max Verstappen, has gone wide, and Verstappen makes a mistake. Räikkönen comes out with, oh, come on! Got to surely give him space. He's running straight off the road, and now Vettel has gone into 4th.
Yeah, Vettel will get a run surely on Max Verstappen, but you're right, Ben, it didn't look like he gave him much room when he came back on track. Car's heavy with fuel, you can see there Räikkönen having to go a little bit defensive to Grosjean.
Yeah, Grosjean's certainly still in the attack here. He's on the soft tyre, remember, the mid-range, but take a look at this again. When he rejoins is the key moment.
Yeah, so he's gone off onto the sprayed runoff area. Well, I guess you could argue he's just taken his line, but he must have been aware that Raikkonen was there. Yeah. Car's heavy with fuel at the start of the Grand Prix. Misjudgment on the brakes.
Of course, you don't have a lot of lock with a Formula 1 car.
No. There is that, and there was some contact. You can see what Maurizio thinks.
Yeah, he was outraged. But, yeah, I mean, I think he could have probably taken a tighter line, but full lock on a Formula 1 car, it actually is quite hard to get round. But nonetheless, surely he should have given a little bit more space, if possible, to Raikkonen. There's a problem for Magnussen. He's got a puncture left rear, or it's destroyed left rear. Yeah,
has there been contact somewhere around the lap? Well, we know the Pirellis are a little bit susceptible to, if there is any side contact, then they do seem quite fragile on the sidewall. That's a long way back. There'll be debris actually being thrown. Right, is this where there was some contact?
So he's battling with Leclerc.
And I think that's when the tyre had actually let go. So was a contact here? Is that what's led to? Oh, well, there you go. That was a late move from Kevin.
Think you had been hit by Leclerc?
I don't think Leclerc had anywhere to go, to be honest, did he?
Well, I think he was just completely confused. I think he was committing to go left, as it looked to me, and then Kevin's covered that and then moved right as well. So I'd like to see that one again to fully understand. But it's certainly, Kevin does have a history of late moves. But there's one thing that's quite clear, though, that was before the braking zone. So the sort of gentleman's agreement, FIA applied rule tends to be that on the brakes you don't move.
So Brendan Hartley, the biggest loser on that opening lap. So the Kiwi, who qualified so well yesterday, dropped all the way down to 10th place. He lost 4 places on the opening lap. And Charles Leclerc also lost 3 places. Magnussen, of course, is going to trail right down to the back of the field. He'd actually finished the first lap where he qualified.
Yeah, that debris that he's throwing, bits of tyre, and if that's on track, they may have to consider some kind of safety car. There's bits of tyre that you can see there in carbon fibre, and that could lead to other cars having an issue with their tyres. So it'll be an interesting decision for the race director.
Daniel Ricciardo still forging his way through from the back of the field. He's currently in 11th place. Incident involving Raikkonen and Verstappen under investigation, no surprise. Daniel Ricciardo now going around the outside and making the move stick on Brendan Hartley, so that's put him into 10th place. But Brendan Hartley will be bitterly disappointed with how that first lap went for him. The first lap went well for Fernando Alonso, though. He's 14th at the moment, and he made up 3 places on that opening lap. In comes, well, he's back out again, in fact, is Kevin Magnussen on a fresh set of tyres. He's gone onto the medium compound. Right, let's take another look at the start here, David.
Well, Max Verstappen got a good launch off the line there. You see Lewis Hamilton was able to come across quite comfortably. And then down the middle of the pack, there was Sebastian Vettel getting that pass on Pierre Gasly. So this was a good opening run from him. You hear the juddering as he released the clutch, and then straight down the inside of Hartley, who was a bit slow away. And then Gasly bravely trying to run it round the outside into turn 2. Almost made it stick, actually, but then you can see Vettel just on the right line as he goes into 3.
Safety car has been deployed. We're still looking back at the action that Vettel had on that opening lap. That was alongside Grosjean. My goodness, they almost touched then. But there were some great moves going on as Ricciardo also managed to get past Carlos Sainz. But we have got a safety car in action at the moment due to debris on circuit.
Yeah, that's a late call on the safety car. You could see that debris. You can see this. Well, he certainly didn't give him room, but equally he took the racing line. So what is the line on that? We're going to find out what the steward's position is. Max's car is ahead, not by much, but Kimi arguably had clear sight of him as well.
The very experienced Tom Christensen is the driver steward here this weekend, so it'll be interesting to see what they make of that. But we do have safety car out there at the moment because of the debris, and you can see, a big part of the carcass of the tyre right on the side of the road. The incident between Leclerc and Magnussen is also under investigation. And, well, we know that Magnussen tends to make those late moves, and that is the consequence. If you do that, you're so much more likely to get hit. I think the main thing that's interesting is whether there's any damage to the front of Leclerc's car. We haven't seen any yet, but clearly it was his front wing that caught the contact with the rear tyre on Magnussen's car. So the drivers will all be now stacked up behind the safety car, somewhere or other. Not all of them are stacked up at the moment, but the safety car is out there, and so they all have to queue up and then not overtake, obviously, until the safety car is released. Two Ferraris now running in 4th and 5th place after a very strong opening sequence there from Sebastian Vettel. He's in 4th, Raikkonen in 5th, and it looks like there is damage to the front wing on Leclerc's car. Look, yeah. So they're changing the front wing. They're also going for the medium compound tyre, and it's not quite as quick a front wing change as we saw from Red Bull last week in Sochi. Karun, this isn't quite as quick from these guys.
No, it's not. You can hear in the background, Ben, that's Sergei Sorokin in the Williams. He's come into the pits as well to switch from the soft to the medium. Leclerc only now, by the way, driving past me on a set of new mediums. So they're going to try and go long into this race. Really slow pit stop by Sauber. They're going to have to investigate and practice that a bit more, I think.
We're having another look at this, David. Tell us your thoughts.
Well, you can see that Charles Leclerc was coming out the slipstream, aiming to go down the inside.
Magnussen is and will always be stupid. It's a fact.
Well, no doubting his opinion on that. But, well, what is a fact is Kevin has a history of making late moves. We've seen that on a number of occasions. The question is, was Charles a little bit naive in the way he dealt with that? We're just seeing there that Max Verstappen's got a penalty.
Yeah, Max Verstappen has been given a 5-second time penalty for leaving the track and not returning safely, which sounds pretty sensible, really, and according to the rules. If you do go off, you always have to return onto the track in a safe manner, and the stewards have added a 5-second penalty. Now, he will take that at his pit stop when that is due. No sign of it yet, of course, early days, as we take another look at this incident. So he locks up, goes straight on. Raikkonen thinks, right, I've got him, takes the corner as wide as he can be, but Verstappen still pushes him even wider off track.
Yeah, I think 5 seconds is the sort of minimum that they could do. What I would question is, how else was he able to rejoin the track? You know, at the end of the day, he's, as you know, Ben, when you've got dirt on your tyres.
But surely you could argue he should have been a bit slower. I mean, he sort of didn't. He could have slowed down a bit more on the artificial grass.
Potentially, but I don't think you or I can judge how much grip he has when you're on that dusty, the dusty green, any further than the stewards can, actually. And as much respect as I have for Tom, it's been some time since he's driven a single-seater, so I don't think Max will be happy about it. But anyway, he did. There's no question the result of his mistake led to Kimi being effectively given no choice but to run off the track. So in that case, the penalty is fair, but I think it's very difficult to really judge how much more he could have slowed the car down. He could have gone straight, effectively. His mistake is he tried to make the chicane once he'd missed the chicane. Okay. Had he gone straight, then he would have been in a situation where, well, did he gain an advantage? But as it was the first lap, he probably would have got away with it. That's
a good point, actually. Yeah, if he'd gone straight through, he wouldn't have hit Raikkonen, and then there'd be a different argument.
So you've been given a 5-second time penalty. Been given a 5-second time penalty for leaving the track and not returning safely.
What honestly, I tried to do the best I could. He drives around the outside. He could have easily just waited for me to come back.
So he does disagree with it, as you thought.
Well, absolutely. You could have predicted that answer.
So, but it doesn't change anything. He has a 5-second penalty, so that will, of course, hinder him when he comes into his pit stop, but it's not out of the race yet. It will drop him down the order, and of course the trouble for him in a way is being behind safety car at this stage in the race means that everybody's going to be stacked up, whereas normally you'd have expected the top 3, 4 or even 5 to break away from the rest. Certainly the top 5 cars, of course, the faster group of cars, the Mercedes, the Red Bull and the Ferraris. So that would be a chance for them to open up a gap. This will make strategy a little bit more difficult now, because when they make a pit stop, they're more likely to come into a group of cars. So it's an interesting situation. So Lewis Hamilton leads behind the safety car. Once we've seen the lapped car go past, and he may now overtake, as we're seeing. So Hamilton leads the race, Bottas is second. Verstappen currently in third. He does have a 5-second penalty hanging over him. Vettel is in fourth place. Kimi Räikkönen is fifth. And Romain Grosjean is sixth. We're on lap number 6 out of 53. Early stages of the Japanese Grand Prix. We've had an early safety car as well as a result of debris from Kevin Magnussen's puncture. He's been allowed to overtake the safety car now, and he'll hope that he can do some quick running to join the back of the queue. He's actually managed to stay on the lead lap despite the puncture because of the safety car. That couldn't have been better timed for him from that point of view, because otherwise he would have been a lap down. But also down in the back is the man he hit, Leclerc.
Checo, I think you know it already, but best chance in this race is attacking the cars ahead. Some cars behind have boxed for medium. They're right at the back of the pack, slower cars, so really it's ahead.
Yeah, well, Leclerc is the one, I suppose, that they've got to keep a bit of an eye on, who's already pitted, is now onto the mediums, but it's still going to be a very tough race for him right from the back.
I always find it curious that Formula 1 terminology, that they call it boxed, when we still call it a pit stop, we call it pit stop practice. You don't say box stop, do you?
That's very true, yeah. Yeah, maybe we should change the words that we use, but yeah. So Sebastian Vettel, good opening little sequence for this. This is definitely encouraging for Ferrari, isn't it? And we shall see whether they can make any more out of this. Because he's up to fourth place already. The safety car is going to be in at the end of this lap. There's also an investigation going on between an incident between Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. So that's an interesting one. We haven't actually seen that yet ourselves, but it is being investigated. Alonso did gain a good amount of ground on the opening lap. Stroll lost out on the opening lap, so interesting.
Well, we spoke to Bernd Maylander, the safety car driver there ahead of the Grand Prix, and they wonder whether he'd get any track action today. Well, we've got our answer. He's getting to have a bit of fun. It's a long way to travel not to actually get to be the safety car driver, so I wonder if he's paid by the lap.
I somewhat doubt it. So Hamilton is already bunching the field up as the safety car heads towards the pit lane, and Hamilton decides when to go for it. He'll be happy that it's his teammate behind, because it's unlikely that Bottas is going to make any risky manoeuvres. It's Max Verstappen that we need to keep an eye on in third place, and then Vettel fourth. Verstappen versus Vettel.
Fire for Grosjean.
Copy, be careful.
Oh, he's reporting a fire on Grosjean's car, which could be a brake problem or something like that. The race has restarted. Hamilton takes them into the chicane. So here's a chance for Vettel, maybe on the restart, to try and get past the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. Can he go on the attack? Oh, he gets a bit sideways on the run down the hill. That's going to cost him a little bit of time, and it might be difficult to attack now into turn one. Great restart from Lewis Hamilton, opening up the advantage already. Verstappen can see Vettel in his mirrors and knows he's not close enough to go on the attack. And now this could be a long phase for Sebastian Vettel of sitting behind the Red Bull. Could be very difficult to overtake. A little bit of action behind. Daniel Ricciardo was trying to get past Esteban Ocon, hasn't made it yet, but Ricciardo currently in 10th position. There he is, just flashing through. Was very close to Ocon as they came through those first couple of corners, and he's got the bit between his teeth, coming from 15th on the grid. He's made 5 places, and now he's trying to see what he can do. Further down the order, Leclerc has moved up one as well. He's just got past Stoffel Van Dorn, but here we are, David, riding on board with Ricciardo.
Yeah, trying to get himself into position. The hairpin is a place where he could try and attempt an overtake, but just too far back. Also the race line there, Force India quite defensive on the way in. That compromises a little bit the line on exit. You can see the power of that Force India Mercedes, and now Vettel getting down the inside, and there's contact.
Vettel and Verstappen hit each other down at Spoon Corner, and surely now that means Vettel is not going to score many points, if any, here today. There is damage on his car. He's trying to restart. He's going to get back into the fray. Well, Ferrari are always nervous about going wheel to wheel with Verstappen, and it went wrong on this occasion. We'll have to take another look to see exactly what happened. But Kimi Räikkönen is now the one behind the Red Bull, and that has a big effect on the championship, of course, because Vettel's chances may be all but over in the 2018 World Title race.
It's just not as good wheel-to-wheel racer as Hamilton. He's got the speed, but we need to see the beginning of that. Just he got his car into position clearly as he ran down to Spoon, but there's nothing to say that Verstappen had to get on the brakes. Look at the difference in speed, and he tries to throw it down the inside, and that was a desperate move from a desperate man. There is not enough deceleration in the first part of Spoon to be able to outbrake Max Verstappen.
That's how it looked from Max's point of view. The Ferrari was not sufficiently alongside to stop him taking his line into the corner, and he took his line, contact was made. Would he have seen, was he aware, do you think, that the Ferrari was there?
No, he would have been aware. He's certainly a little bit wider on turning, and that angle actually makes it look as if the door was open. But knowing that corner, knowing the width of this racetrack, and there's very little deceleration into that first part of Spoon. And, you know, Vettel knows that. He knows that. He also knows that Max Verstappen doesn't give an inch.
It looks as though it's all over for Kevin Magnussen. That's a great shame. You know, he hasn't non-finished since the first Grand Prix of the year in Australia when they had the wheel come off. And so this is his first non-finish due to another problem. It is wheel-related, probably, from the puncture earlier on. But a great shame for Kevin Magnussen. But you might think that he might have had some input himself with the move he made with Charles Leclerc earlier on. So we're on lap 10 out of 53. It's been a lot of drama already, but up front, it's all going swimmingly well for Lewis Hamilton. He has a 2-second lead over his teammate Valtteri Bottas, with Max Verstappen still surviving in third despite the contact with Sebastian Vettel on that last lap. Kimi Räikkönen is now fourth as we look at Marcus Ericsson and maybe some action ahead. Or did he? Oh, he ran into his teammate. He did.
Yeah, that was at the restart. He has rammed the back. How did that happen? Well, you could see that Leclerc was really slowed down by the Williams in front, and then the chain reaction. We see it on our open roads, don't we? When people getting rear-ended in traffic jams, and the same's happened here in Formula One.
They're both still running, and Leclerc, as I mentioned before, had made some ground. He's actually got past Sirotkin now, but you see Vettel is with them down in 18th position currently in the Ferrari, so now he's got all his work to do again. And can we see any damage on the car at the moment?
He lost part of his barge board, so you can see, you know, a little lock up there. So on the right of his car, he's missing one of the barge boards as Ericsson just dips a wheel off the track. And if you thought that looked like sand that was being thrown up, you're absolutely right. That's how they fill the holes in here in Suzuka. They just drop some sand after, and it tends to be quite effective at stopping people systematically running off the track.
Well, he's got so much work to do now, hasn't he, Sebastian Vettel? And there's every chance that he will struggle to score any points from back here. I mean, he's got a very fast car, but he's got an awful lot of cars to get past, and this could mean that Lewis Hamilton's advantage in the championship, well, of course, if he doesn't score any, then Hamilton's advantage, if he wins, would go up to 75 points. It'd be a huge gain over the course of another race.
This weekend is definitely going to test this Ferrari relationship between Vettel, Maurizio Arrivabene, the team. They were not at all happy. Maurizio was not happy with the performance of the team in terms of decisions and strategy during qualifying. That, you know, Vettel can't blame anyone else other than himself for getting involved in that incident. And you know, I know this expression, Ben, you win together, you lose together, but a quality driver like Vettel, that was a little bit sloppy, really.
It's under investigation, as expected. They are having a look at it. So in the incident involving Leclerc and Magnussen, interestingly, no further action on that one. I wonder if that's...
That does seem a little bit strange. You know, that could have potentially been a huge accident. So someone's got to have been the root cause. Either Charles Leclerc made an error of judgment in trying to pass a car in front, or the car in front closed down too aggressively. You know, you can't... How often do we see cars ramming each other in the straight line and then no action being taken?
Maybe it's simply that he's retired out of the race. Daniel Ricciardo now on the attack, trying to get past the Force India here of Sergio Perez, but this is a flat-out corner, so there's not a lot of room. Now, can he still be tucked in there to have a go into the chicane? He's going to go for it down the inside with one of his late-breaking manoeuvres, and in the end, Perez probably thinks better than trying to defend too hard. He knows that Red Bull is a very rapid car. It now goes chasing after the sister team car of Toro Rosso, but Pierre Gasly's doing a fine job at the moment. He's currently holding on to sixth, and there's a good chance for him to score some useful points. Meanwhile, there's Vettel still battling with Ericsson, and it's still not working for him. But maybe there's the chance now to get him down towards turn one. Yes, this time with DRS in use, he's able to get past the Sauber. One place gain for Sebastian Vettel, all the way up to 17th. So it's a long, long way to go yet. His next year's teammate is the next one to try and get past. No, it's not. Sirotkin's next, and then it's Leclerc. So he's got to try and get past the Williams of Sirotkin first of all. Karun.
Yeah, Ben, just looking at the sort of winners and losers, because we've been all over the place, haven't we, with these incidents. But Daniel Ricciardo, obviously the big gainer, he's gained 8 places from where he started. Fernando Alonso, as usual, a big gainer, 6 places up now, 12th place, just outside the points. So another storming first few laps from him. Brendan Hartley, unfortunately, has gone down 5, Ben, on that opening. We saw the poor start from him, and there he is now. He, sorry, that was the other Toro Rosso, wasn't it? Pierre Gasly, you mentioned, was doing a really good job. One thing to watch out is, when is Gasly going to pit? His tyres have now done 14 laps. Having that safety car would have helped him, and but those tyres are going to start to get tired soon.
Daniel Ricciardo having a little look into the chicane, but he doesn't do a repeat manoeuvre as he did to Perez, but he may feel that he can do him down the straight. Mind you, the new Honda engine, which has been brought in this weekend, it's the first time it's been raced. It is stronger, but I think with DRS, the Red Bull is going to be able to overtake. Yeah, so in the end, it is relatively straightforward. And as I say, he might not have been fighting that too hard. His tyres, as Karun says, are past their best, even with the safety car. Ricciardo's on the better compound of tyre here.
Just thinking back over the course of the season, Vettel, it seems, has been involved in incidents or made mistakes at 6 of the Grand Prix. You remember Baku at the restart, threw it down the inside. You can argue, if you're not prepared to go for a gap, then you're no longer a racer, but that didn't work out for him. Austria got a grid penalty for holding up signs, and Ricard hit the back of Bottas. Germany arguably pressured off the circuit.
Hesitations. Turn 2. Getting back on power. Now turn 5.
Okay, copy. We'll have a look at it.
He's a bit worried about the drivability, that the engine not responding quite as he would normally expect.
Yeah, we had that in the last Grand Prix as well. He had a little issue there. But anyway, just to finish on Vettel, Italy got involved in that second chicane, first lap incident with Hamilton, and then now here with Max.
Yeah, and David, just you know, listening back to your sort of recall of the season, he obviously hasn't got the Chip Ganassi lesson, is it? Which is, if you don't finish first, then finish second and get the points. You can't finish second, then finish third and get those points, etc.
Daniel Ricciardo down the inside of Romain Grosjean, and this is to claim 5th place. So he's moved up from 15th on the grid to 5th place as we go on to lap 14, and that's a good recovery drive from Daniel Ricciardo, but it now means he's got a Ferrari to pass next. Vettel down the inside now, getting past Lance Stroll and into position. So yes, he's got past the Williams, and that puts him up into 15th position. He now chases after his next year's teammate Charles Leclerc in the Sauber, and further up the order he's still going to have to pass the likes of Hulkenberg and Alonso. There's a move from Marcus Ericsson, taking full advantage there of getting past Lance Stroll, and the Sauber that crashed out in qualifying yesterday, showing some decent pace at this point. So he'll be pleased about that, to gain a little bit of time. Further back, we've got the other Williams there of Sergei Sirotkin. He's running down in 18th place, but it's Stoffel van Dorn who's actually last of everybody in the McLaren, and just the one retirement so far. That is Kevin Magnussen out of the Grand Prix. So race leader Lewis Hamilton, he's got a 2.7 second advantage over Valtteri Bottas. That's probably just a gap that they're managing. I doubt if Lewis is pushing as hard as he could here. They're looking after their tyres to a certain extent, and it's very difficult if you get much closer than that. The driver behind starts to lose tyre performance. The gap back to Verstappen is quite similar. Raikkonen a further second away from Max Verstappen, and then still we're watching the progress of Sebastian Vettel, having had the incident with Max Verstappen when he'd done such a good job on the opening lap, Vettel, to move from 8th basically up to 4th, but then the incident at Spoon Curve with Max Verstappen has dropped him all the way back down the order. He's now in 15th place and trying to catch Charles Leclerc just up ahead of him. There is Kimi Raikkonen then, he's in 4th place, and Ferrari's campaign really is falling apart, isn't it? And not only in the Drivers' Championship, but in the Constructors as well.
I'm struggling back so thin. I know the left hand general and the left hand, I don't know if he lost something or less.
He's on the super soft tyre, remember, Kimi Raikkonen, unlike Hamilton and Bottas, so struggling already by the sound of things. We're on board here with Sebastian Vettel. Lewis Hamilton leads the race ahead of Bottas, Verstappen third, Raikkonen fourth, Ricciardo now up into fifth place, and Romain Grosjean in sixth. Lap 15, and Vettel needs to get through these slower cars as quickly as possible, but it's going to start getting harder now, David, isn't it? Especially to get past Leclerc, which we know that's a pretty quick car on the medium compound tyre.
Yeah, especially as the tyres start to lose their edge. We had that few laps of safety car, so that preserved the tyres. But if you look at the progress that Daniel Ricciardo has made, there is no reason why Vettel can't make his way back into some good points. But yeah, it looks like Charles Leclerc is doing the honourable team thing.
Yes, he's getting a little credit from the man who he's going to be driving alongside next year at Ferrari. Decided not the time to hold him up in this race. So Vettel now up into 14th place, but it might not be quite so easy. Now the Renaults, or one of the Renaults is next, Hulkenberg, who started further down the grid than he would have expected in 16th. He's now holding on to 13th place. Just look at a little replay, slow motion there of Sebastian Vettel at work.
Yeah, you can see the barge board damage there, missing from the side of the car. If you assume that every part, aerodynamic part on the car is there for a reason, then that's got to be affecting the overall balance.
Yeah, and there's Daniel Ricciardo. He's currently in fifth.
Taking it very wide on the exit of Dunlop Curve. That's where we saw Marcus Ericsson drop it in qualifying, so that's about as well. He definitely doesn't want to go any wider than that, otherwise he'll find himself in the gravel.
He's doing the same sort of pace as the top three at the moment, 35.1, 35.2 for Hamilton, Verstappen and Ricciardo. It's quite a lot quicker than Kimi Raikkonen, who did a really slow lap, actually, that, no, not too slow, but a 36.1, definitely a second down.
Yeah, that's right, well, a full 9/10 slower than Verstappen.
Temperatures are now stable. How is the balance?
Yeah, both axles pretty similar, but so I'm losing more rear than front.
Well, for the moment he stays out there. Can they make it a one-stop race? What do you reckon, Corinne, on Daniel's progress?
Yeah, I think he can make it a one-stop race, Ben, and now the super soft tyre on Raikkonen's Ferrari starting to struggle. Daniel is really closing him down. Last time round took 9/10 of a second. He's only 4.5 behind. That safety car's helped to bring him, into play with the leaders. So I think Raikkonen could be under real threat from Daniel later in the race.
Sebastian Vettel claims another spot. He moves into 13th place, getting past Nico Hulkenberg, but he's still not in the points as yet, whereas Hamilton is heading for a maximum. Still plenty of time to go in this race. He's on lap 17 out of 53. But Hamilton's advantage up front is looking healthy over his own teammate as Mercedes try and bring this home in a 1-2 formation. Verstappen still in third, Raikkonen dropping back a bit in fourth, and Ricciardo catching.
Yeah, well, Raikkonen now has dropped just over 5 seconds behind Verstappen, and with that 5-second penalty, that's the exact gap that Verstappen would be looking to try and open up. So the Ferrari is struggling on its tyres. Raikkonen last few laps in the 36s, and you can see Verstappen still managing to do low 35, Hamilton 34.7. So Ferrari, there were early signs on Friday that they were a bit harder on their tyres, so they will probably end up being one of the first to have to stop. And as we say that, you can see the team getting ready, and there is quite a powerful advantage getting onto a fresh set of tyres, but where Raikkonen is right now, that's going to bring him out around Hartley and Alonso. Huge lockup. Is this him heading into the pit lane?
Might be, yeah, he might be really attacking, knowing that these tyres don't have to go any further. It doesn't matter to have a flat spot anymore. In comes Kimi Raikkonen from 4th position. He is the top Ferrari by quite a long way at this point in this race, but the weekend is not going the way of the Italian team. He's forced to make a pit stop. He's going to go onto the white-walled medium compound tyre. That's the hardest compound we have here this weekend, and hope to take that to the end of the race. Well, it should certainly do that. But what sort of pace he will deliver, that's the other question. And he's going to come out in a whole bunch of traffic when he comes down to the end here. You can see he comes out behind Carlos Sainz. And so Kimi Raikkonen rejoining in 10th place.
Yeah, that was typically slick work from the Ferrari pit stop crew, getting him out in front of Hartley. He was at risk of dropping behind him. Now, on that medium tyre, you can see that lock-up coming into the last chicane. And as you said, Ben, once you know you're heading to the pits, then any flat spot and vibration that comes from there doesn't really matter. We knew that was going to be a key in lap, and then you deliver the car to your team in the pit lane, and then look for great customer service. And in this case, that great customer service is a couple of second pit stop.
Now this is always fun. When Vettel catches Alonso, for whatever reason, we end up with a huge battle normally, because Alonso is never going to make life easy for Sebastian Vettel. Their rivalry goes right back, of course, to the days when Vettel ended up winning his 4 world titles, and Alonso was always his biggest contender, really, at that time. And no love lost between them, that's for sure. So he ain't going to make life easy, but we know the Ferrari's a much faster car than the McLaren.
Well, that's the thing. If you've got a couple of seconds in car pace, and that makes it relatively straightforward. Look at the difference in straight line speed. That McLaren with the Renault power is pretty draggy, but Alonso defends into the chicane. Vettel being a little bit more cautious with him, but he'll easily be able to overtake him on the start-finish straight. It's going to get DRS. McLaren reasonable acceleration off the chicane, but just watch for the closing speed once the DRS opens. Will Alonso bother to defend? Yes, he does.
Round the outside goes Sebastian Vettel, and there's no way that Alonso could prevent him from doing that with the speed of the McLaren down at the end of the straight.
But interesting, as you say, about the rivalry between them. Alonso could have just stayed online, because he would know that the overspeed would see Vettel pass, but the racer in him wanted him to at least defend and make it a little bit more challenging.
There's the man that will be driving for McLaren full-time next year, Lando Norris. He will be joined by Carlos Sainz at that team. Now, Vettel having made some progress, we're watching Kimi Raikkonen here now, as he has caught Esteban Ocon in the Force India. Now, of course, Ocon yet to make a pit stop. In fact, all of the cars ahead of Raikkonen have yet to make a pit stop so far. Karun.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I'm slightly confused by Ferrari's strategy, because they've dropped him into traffic, Ben, and you know, knowing that Max had a 5-second penalty, knowing that Daniel was catching him down, they've dropped Raikkonen into traffic rather than free air. So I'm not fully convinced this is going to work out for them in that battle with Verstappen, despite Max's penalty.
Yeah, it's a good point, but I'm not sure they really had any choice in the case of Raikkonen. He was running 8 to 9 tenths a lap slower than Verstappen, so I think he just cooked his tyres, and which is a worrying sign for them, because he wasn't running in the dirty air of Verstappen. He was more than 5 seconds behind. So here he gets the pass easily done. DRS down into the first corner.
Kimi Raikkonen moves back into 8th place behind the other Force India of Sergio Perez. He should be able to get through this group fairly quickly, but yeah, overall, how will it affect him? The other quite interesting point, Karun, is that the safety car kind of really did help Daniel Ricciardo, didn't it, in bunching them all up. And it's actually going to be quite hard for Hamilton to get an interval over Daniel Ricciardo. And Daniel on some good tyres from the start of this race, so an opportunity there. In fact, they're both on the same kind of tyre, of course, because Mercedes also started on that one.
Yeah, I mean, Hamilton's tyres have done qualifying, obviously, so they've done an extra heat cycle and an extra 3 laps, as have Bottas. But it doesn't matter if they come out behind Ricciardo. They know Ricciardo's got to pit, and Mercedes can just sit there on a new set of mediums and just, you know, wait, and eventually Daniel will have to get out of the way. I think the new set of mediums will be quicker than Daniel's used soft tyres by that stage anyway. So I don't think it's such a problem for them. I think it's a bigger problem for Raikkonen to clear Ricciardo now, because the gap between them is, as we speak, Ben, 18 seconds at the moment.
He's got a bit of a run here as well. Let's just see if he gets past the other Force India. No, not there. It might have to be on the straight.
Yeah, he'll do it down the start-finish straight. But interestingly, Verstappen on those super soft tyres is starting to struggle now, and Ricciardo's brought the gap down to just under 8 seconds. So I think that Ricciardo could well end up in front of Verstappen after the round of pit stops.
Kimi Raikkonen claims another scalp. He moves up into 7th place, getting past Sergio Perez. But he wants more than that, and he's going to be chasing after Pierre Gasly now, who, again, is doing a very solid job. Gasly's performance showing that this Toro Rosso with the Honda power is clearly competitive up against the Force Indias. He's managed to keep that gap over Perez and Ocon for now. Not as quick as Grosjean, but he's only a couple of seconds behind Romain Grosjean. So that's really impressive. We know the Haas car has been strong all season. As we just take another look at this fairly straightforward move from Sebastian Vettel. Another place gained, that was on Brendan Hartley this time. So that's brought him up into 11th place now, so he's only just one outside the points. So there is a chance still for him to get something back from today, but it's all looking very strong for Lewis Hamilton. Meanwhile, Kimi Raikkonen now with a chance to get past Pierre Gasly. Into Spoon Corner, though, he doesn't try and do what Sebastian Vettel did earlier on. He's waiting a little longer before going on the attack.
Yeah, and an opportunity on the brakes at the chicane, should he want to take it. And he just pulled a tear off from his visor. You can see the closing speed as they come into 130R. He has to lift, pull the door open for him on the brakes. No, Toro Rosso goes defensive.
Meanwhile, Max Verstappen has come into the pits, so that means the third place Red Bull is into the pits. This battle continues as Kimi Raikkonen now should be able to get the move done, easily. We've had confirmation of a time penalty for Fernando Alonso, but Max Verstappen gets out just in front of Kimi Raikkonen, so Red Bull had to make that move quickly with Raikkonen on a bit of a roll. There's a time penalty for Stroll as well, so they both gained, oh no, causing a collision. Okay, so that was a slightly different one. And we never saw the action there, Stroll and Alonso in the early laps, but we know that there's a 5-second penalty for both Alonso and Stroll, so they will have longer pit stops. So despite the 5-second penalty there, they managed to get Verstappen out in front of Kimi Raikkonen. We didn't watch the pit stop, but they had to hold back the 5 seconds, and it just about worked.
Yeah, that was the gap they were watching. Raikkonen, as Karun mentioned, was compromised. Small lock up there at the hairpin, but he was compromised on his fresh tyres with the traffic that he had to find his way past. Otherwise, I think that what we call the undercut could have been effective for Ferrari, but Raikkonen in this case still comes out behind Verstappen.
And Verstappen is now trying to get past Romain Grosjean, having coming out behind him. I doubt if Grosjean will try and take the fight too much, and in fact very rapid out of Spoon Corner. Just shows you the benefit of having new tyres, because even though the power of the engine in Verstappen's car is probably not up to the same as the Haas, it's pure traction off the corner that allows him to deliver that overtaking manoeuvre down the straight. So Max Verstappen in 4th place, but he's now a little bit behind his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. And Ricciardo started on different tyres in this race, so Verstappen knows he's got to get on with it on these soft compounds. Kimi Raikkonen now on the attack of Romain Grosjean. He's not quite there in time for turn 1, and after then you're into the S's, very difficult area in which to overtake another car. Romain Grosjean will simply be focused on getting maximum points he can for the Haas team. The single remaining Haas car in there, but it's still a real opportunity for them to further close the gap to Renault in the constructors' points. Bear in mind that Renault may be on target for 1 point here today with Carlos Sainz, but they're on target for maybe 10 or 8 points, probably more likely 8 points for Romain Grosjean. That would bring them right on terms with Renault going into the last 4 races.
I think Hamilton will be coming in this lap by the looks of it.
Okay, little tiny look up there from Kimi Raikkonen, and no further action on the Vettel-Verstappen incident. That's interesting. So
no, it's Bottas actually, sorry Ben. Bottas has come in, Hamilton's gone for another lap.
Kimi Raikkonen just having a look down the inside and does go past Romain Grosjean. So that means our top 6 now is Lewis Hamilton leading, Bottas in 2nd, but he's into the pits, Ricciardo 3rd, Verstappen 4th, and then Raikkonen and Grosjean. So we should expect a pretty rapid stop. It is. That looked lovely from the Mercedes crew. 2.4 seconds he was actually stopped for. And Ricciardo's in as well. Just saw him in the background. There he is. He's on his way already. Almost didn't see it at all. And he's back out again. So he will rejoin behind his teammate, but he's got out in front of Kimi Raikkonen. So that loss of performance on those super soft tyres for the Ferrari of Kimi Raikkonen has indeed cost them a crucial place. And Daniel Ricciardo, who started 15th, has now passed the man who started in 4th. That's pretty astonishing.
Well, it's further salt in the wounds of a difficult weekend for Ferrari. There's still plenty of laps left in this Grand Prix for them to salvage a little bit more, but yeah, that is, it's just the blows keep coming at the moment.
Interestingly, Ricciardo has gone on to the super soft tyre.
There is some blistering on my left front, my left rear.
A little bit of blitz.
Won't be long.
Yeah, sounds as though the pit stop's coming up.
Yeah, it's coming in now.
Lewis Hamilton in from the lead in Japan. Everything going to plan so far for him. He's led from pole position from the start, and all the action's been going on behind him. Now he just needs a good clean pit stop to re-emerge and get out in front of his teammate Valtteri Bottas. Let's just stand back and watch. Lovely, lovely. And the wheel spin as he gets away again.
Yeah, fantastic operation there. You've got to say, from all the top teams, their pit crews are really delivering slick work. The adrenaline those guys must feel as they're waiting for the car to come, even if it's at the 60 or the 80 km/h speed limit, it's still fast as it presents itself between them.
So perfect stuff from Mercedes. They've got him out ahead of his teammate Valtteri Bottas, and they are running 1 and 2 as the sun shines here in Suzuka, and it's all looking good for the Mercedes team. Now, replay of Alonso battling. Now, this might have been a lot earlier when the penalties were handed out. So there, and then he shortcut. So did he come out ahead?
Well, he get sort of forced onto the grass there, and then he's gone across the gravel. So Lance Stroll has had the penalty, I think, for closing out and crowding the car off the circuit, and then Alonso's got the penalty for gaining an advantage.
Yeah, so they both got done in the end. Well, great shame, but they aren't fighting for points, really, those guys. They are quite a long way down the order. 12th for Alonso at the moment, and Lance Stroll's now dropped all the way down to 18th place.
I think Fernando will be a little bit frustrated with the fact he's been given a penalty for effectively being forced off the track.
Yeah, it does seem a little bit harsh, but I guess he rejoined in front. We didn't see quite how it ended up. I guess he might have rejoined in front of Stroll, but even so, it seems, a bit bizarre. So here we are, the two Red Bull drivers. They are running pretty much in tandem at this point. So that strategy of starting on the soft tyre from the start certainly worked for Daniel Ricciardo. And he is on the the medium tyre. So our tyre information that flashed up on our graphics was actually wrong, because we'd seen on our graphics that he was on the super soft, but he isn't. In fact, he is on the hardest compound, the medium, which makes a lot more sense, and he will definitely be able to carry that through. And he might even have a better tyre at the end of the race, I suppose, than Max Verstappen.
Well, he's looking quicker than Max. I don't know if Max has picked up any damage in his car from that early contact with the Ferrari of Vettel, but considering where Daniel started, then this is a really strong showing from him, and looks to me as if he's consistently running a little bit quicker than Verstappen.
So it could be a little bit of a race between these two teammates. We're only coming up to half distance here as Hamilton and Bottas continue to dominate, but these two will be fighting for the final podium slot. And remember, Max has had a great run of podium slots in recent times, but Daniel Ricciardo hasn't had one since Monaco.
Drivability is still on shoot. Parts are all everywhere.
Okay, copy.
Upshifts also feel really harsh.
You know, there's a lot going on for Hamilton. He's having to manage the car quite a bit. He's got a 4.6 second gap to his teammate. So Bottas there to dutifully defend. Verstappen's dropped back. The gap's open to 10 seconds. It was around 4 seconds before the pit stop. So Verstappen's struggling on this different tyre. But yeah, worrying times for Hamilton. It seems like this hybrid Formula One is such a complex system that even the very best, like Mercedes, have got issues in trying to deploy that energy in a smooth way, in a predictable way for the driver.
Yeah, well, reliability has been good this year, but they did both suffer a non-finish in Austria, both Hamilton and Bottas, for different reasons. But reliability generally has been very, very good, as it has for Ferrari, to be fair. During the races, Ferrari have yet to, certainly with Vettel, have yet to have a non-finish due to a mechanical problem. Now, Ferrari are getting ready for a pit stop, so it is Sebastian Vettel who comes in, and he's going to have to do all that hard work again. Maybe not all of it, but quite a lot of it, because a whole bunch of cars just going down the start-finish straight. The likes of Hulkenberg, Leclerc, Ericsson, they're all passing him again, and on his way he goes. So, as there's a battle just up front there, although I think that was a lapped car. No, it wasn't. It was Perez with Sirotkin. So Vettel rejoins, and he's all the way down in 16th place again, and with plenty to do. Alonso's stop time of 7.3 seconds, of course, includes the 5-second penalty he was given. So hence Alonso now rejoins, actually down in last place behind his teammate. So that's a great shame that Alonso, despite all that hard work that he did on the opening lap, now finds himself right down at the back of the field. And, I wonder how he's going to be feeling about that. Up front, no change for Hamilton and Bottas. Then the two Red Bulls. What about behind them? Well, we've got Kimi Räikkönen currently in 5th place. Romain Grosjean still best of the rest in the Haas in 6th. Pierre Gasly hanging on well. Sainz has now moved up the order, but that may change as a result of some of the pit stops that have occurred already, because behind him we've got Ocon, who has now made a pit stop, so that could change things a little bit. Let's just see. This was Hülkenberg versus Leclerc. Ooh, hitting that curve a bit hard.
Yeah, well, this is his first time on the Suzuka track, but he's learning as he's out there that is a fairly unforgiving curve. Very high-speed, short apex corner.
It's not going to come from that far back. He's had a little look down the inside there, but there's a chance for him to pass the Renault to move into what would be 10th place for now. But coming up behind them as well is the Force India of Sergio Perez, the faster car probably, which has had a pit stop. But Marcus Ericsson busy defending. Perez sweeps around the outside, no problem. Ocon also gaining a position, getting past Sirotkin. And the two Force Indias, having made their stops, now trying to make the most of these fresh tyres.
Well, considering that Ericsson ran into the back of his teammate at the chicane just before the restart, he's actually having quite a strong race, running just over a second behind Leclerc, which is a lot closer than it has been in many of the Grand Prix.
Sebastian Vettel tucked in behind Sergei Sirotkin, the Russian, who, as we know, it can be a hard defensive driver, as we saw in Singapore, but fair from what we saw there. Vettel, you would imagine, is going to have a car pace that is going to be miles quicker than the Williams. The Williams still struggling, but they've been making some progress this last few races. It was great to see Lance Stroll get into Q2, but on exit of the hairpin and on the approach now, this is absolutely flat out here. Ooh, Vettel a bit nervous that he was being squeezed out. Presumably he'll either go down the inside into Spoon, yeah, and this time it pays off.
Yeah, I thought that Sirotkin was going to defend harder into Spoon, and I can't imagine he didn't know that Vettel was there, but he accelerated up alongside him and the run down towards Spoon.
This is all quite tight as well. Hülkenberg under attack from Leclerc. Leclerc down the inside. Oh, it's all very tight, and I think Perez is going to take full advantage of that. He does. Hülkenberg loses 2 in one go there. He was defending as hard as he could, but fair play to them. They all made it work.
Yeah, that was a great pass from Charles Leclerc. We're going to get a bit of DRS action down into turn 1. As we see, one of the Toro Rossos has just come in. Brendan Hartley's come in from 9th place.
Yeah,
his pit stop.
The man who had a rather poor getaway, didn't he, at the start of this race, and that's dropped him well down. The Force Indias are cutting their way back through the field. Talk us through this again, David.
Well, it was great. He sort of dummied Nico by looking like he was going to take his normal line, and then by the time Nico realised that he'd committed, and Nico fairly left enough space, but tried to sort of shallow down the line to put the Sauber driver off, but he got the pass done. I'm sure there was a little bit of contact between the two as well.
Leclerc is currently ahead of Perez, and that's a really interesting one. But here's Vettel. Vettel trying to get down the inside of Ericsson, and he does it. So now he's into 13th position. But all these guys are racing hard. That early safety car has kind of kept this group together, and it's going to make life a bit more challenging for Vettel, as you see Leclerc and Perez go through. And Perez, a feisty racer. We know he can pull off some pretty good moves himself. But let's just see whether he's going to find a way past Charles Leclerc. So Nico Hülkenberg, having lost a couple of spots last lap around at the chicane, he could be under threat of losing another one from Sebastian Vettel. Is Vettel going to go for the inside on the exit here, up towards the chicane? He's got a great run going. Yeah, no problem at all for Sebastian Vettel. He passes Hülkenberg into 12th position. Just seen one or two more in the pits, by the way. Grosjean and Gasly have now made their pit stops as well. But Leclerc's under pressure from Perez. Perez is going to go down the inside as Grosjean's there, and that's for position as well. So Grosjean just keeping him out and just staying in front. That was close, and Haas just about managed to do it. They were right on the edge of the pit window in terms of lap time, so he was always going to be thereabouts. Look, there's Grosjean on the right.
It wasn't quite 3 abreast into turn 1, but it was an absolute key moment for Haas, and this is in the run down towards Spoon.
I think it's just Ocon getting past Hülkenberg, is it now as well?
Yeah. The difference in speed between the Force India with the Mercedes power and the Renault was very apparent there.
but he's going to come under threat from Vettel. Ooh, he doesn't want to do that. Those tyres have got to get him to the end of the race, and he's now picked up a bit of a flat spot on that right front. But Charles Leclerc has been passed by Perez, and now he's likely to be passed by Ocon as well. Two stars of the future, these two, but one with the drive for next year, of course, and Leclerc going to Ferrari, and Ocon, who hasn't got a drive.
I think Vettel understeered a little bit wide in the middle of Spoon, but he's picked up the slipstream now on the Force India. Tricky to overtake before 130R.
Wow, this is going to be tight. Vettel right in there with the Force India, which is going to have to defend, or is it? No, in fact, Vettel goes through on the inside, and now Ocon will just try and follow him to get on terms with Leclerc. Again, they are all battling for position, remember. There's no lapping going on, so blue flags don't count in this situation. It's up to Vettel to fight his way through, and you would think it's going to be fairly straightforward. It is. Leclerc gives him the space, as he did earlier. He was probably half thinking, oh, I've got to be careful here, otherwise I'll lose too much momentum to the Force India behind me. But in the end, he did let the Ferrari go.
Yeah, that's Leclerc playing the long game. And I think that Sauber will not really be frustrated at him for that, because they rely on that strategic partnership with Ferrari. Vettel getting the opportunity to see the race ahead.
This was fun, this bit here, wasn't it, with all three together?
Yeah, it was always going to be difficult to overtake in 130R, but Vettel showing better racing skills in the second half of the race than he did in the first.
So still watching Ocon now behind Leclerc. Hasn't found a way past just yet. And Leclerc doing his utmost to defend. And here we go, he's got a chance here, Ocon. Yeah, he's got to the inside line and just too much speed carried through. That Force India is working very effectively, I have to say, at the moment. And they should pick up some useful points here today. Carlos Sainz, by the way, now up in the 6th place, still hasn't made a pit stop in this race. He's gone a long way on his soft tyres that he started the Grand Prix on, some over 30 laps, of course. Now we're on lap 32 out of 53, and I wonder if that's going to work for Carlos Sainz. I'm not sure it is, because his lap times are not looking very good, so I think we're going to see Carlos drop way down, and whether he's going to get a point or not at the end, I think it's going to be quite demanding. Gasly, another one on a charge on a fresh set of tyres here. Now, this is Honda power versus Ferrari power, and the DRS. Let's just see. No, it doesn't really close up at all.
No, I didn't expected to see a bit more of a closing speed. Normally when you open up the DRS, it takes a massive amount of rear drag off the car, and we see anything sort of 15 to 20 kilometres an hour increase in straight line speed.
Karun.
Yeah, Ben, just looking at Gasly's race, because obviously right now he's dropped way down the order. Unfortunately for him, both Saubers pitted under that early safety car, so they have switched. They've done their sort of mandatory pit stop. He's going to have to pass them on track. He was the loser. Force India's undercut the Toro Rossos. Toro Rosso weren't sharp enough to bring Gasly in, and they've lost out massively on their first round of stops to both Perez and Ocon. Don't forget, Gasly was ahead of them before the first round of stops, so that's bad news. Riding on board here with Ocon, he's found his way through the traffic, and that's critical for him, because he doesn't want to get bottled up. And yeah, unfortunately, Toro Rosso not quite as sharp when it came to the strategic calls there.
Okay, we're seeing some big blisters on the medium compound tyre, interestingly, of Charles Leclerc, so that's part of the reason that he's struggling so much.
Yeah, well, you can drive with the blisters, but it's giving an indication that there's just too much rear sliding. You're overheating the rear tyres. We've seen Carlos Sainz has pitted for Renault, and will be rejoining. His teammate Hulkenberg was in a couple of laps before.
Vital for Gasly here, who, as we've heard from Karun, has lost a lot of valuable ground here, and they desperately want points, and he's going to go around the outside, and that's lovely. Gave a bit of space, gets a great response from the crowd here, but they know that they have lost some valuable ground to those Force Indias as a result of the timings of the pit stop. So how much he can get back, we will find out as we go through the rest of the race. He is back into 11th place now. He's got to chase after the other Sauber of Charles Leclerc, but certainly the blistering might help him in that regard. Sebastian Vettel, meanwhile, getting past Sergio Perez, so that has put Vettel into 7th position. So he's going to be scoring points here today, but nothing like the number of points he was hoping for.
It does show and confirm the massive offset between the top three teams, and the others in Formula One that it doesn't really seem to matter where they start or where they're running. If they get some clean air, they're able to drive quickly, overtake easily, and still get themselves back up into serious points.
That's right. He's only got a second or so to catch Grosjean, but then after that, it's a bit more of a problem. It's a 40-second gap then from Grosjean to Raikkonen, so that, as you say, illustrates the difference between those top teams and the midfield teams. 40-second gap to best of the rest, just over half distance, and that's a massive margin.
Well, it's one of the big challenges for Ross Brawn and the technical team, because what they want to do is have the regulations to close that gap up, and what it's effectively doing is to try and say to Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, you do too good a job because you've clearly got more funds available, and therefore you can employ more people, and then those collective extra heads make better decisions. So in some ways it's kind of anti-competition by trying to restrict them. But in the other way, of course, we want to see a very healthy Formula One with an even spread as much as possible of the performance front to rear, and an opportunity for the smaller teams to, through smart strategy and good driving, occasionally get in amongst the top teams.
That would be lovely, and of course that's what they're thinking about with the regulations for 2021 and beyond. There will be some major changes coming along in a couple of years, but right now it's up to Sebastian Vettel to find a way past Romain Grosjean. He's going to do it where he had the tangle with Verstappen earlier, but he has made a few moves on the inside since then, and that brings him into 6th place. So for all the dramas of Sebastian Vettel, he started 8th on the grid. He got up into 4th place very early on, but then had the clash with Verstappen. That dropped him right down to the tail of the field. He's fought his way through once again, and he's now back into 6th position, but it's not really where he would want to be. Sainz did come out behind Sirotkin, but was able to go wheel to wheel with him. That was very close. Oh, they did actually touch. Look at that. The two cars actually touching in a very high-speed section, and Pierre Gasly gets past Charles Leclerc, and that has put him back in the points. He's into 10th place, but having lost out big time to the two Force Indias up ahead of him, but at least there is that chance still to score for Toro Rosso here today, and he would have wanted more out of it. In the background, you're having a look at Carlos Sainz on Marcus Ericsson, and he sweeps past quite easily into 12th position on a fairly fresh set of tyres, of course, Carlos. So keep an eye on him. I think there's a very good chance he's going to get past Leclerc. After that, though, getting into the top 10 is going to be tough for him, because he's going to have to try and catch Pierre Gasly. Well, the shadows are lengthening here at Suzuka. It's even though it's only just coming up for 3:15 local time, but there's a bit of cloud in the air, not quite as bright as it was when we started the race. Hamilton still very much in control, nearly 6 seconds his advantage over Valtteri Bottas, with the two Red Bulls settled in 3rd and 4th positions. No change there at the moment. Raikkonen then in 5th place. Another look at Pierre Gasly. Yeah, that was relatively straightforward for him down the inside, and Leclerc, I think, has run out of grip. That left rear is really looking quite marked up.
Yeah, you wonder whether he'll not have to stop again. It's a lot of blistering on that left rear.
Meanwhile, there's Max Verstappen. So the man who started in 3rd place had that little coming together with Sebastian Vettel, but survived at the moment. He's running on the soft compound tyre. His teammate behind him is running on the medium compound tyre, the harder tyre, which may well be more effective at the end. But then, having said that, we've looked at Leclerc, and clearly that medium tyre is susceptible to blistering as well. And then behind them, there's a big gap to Kimi Raikkonen, some 6 seconds further back for the other Ferrari. And then we'll be watching Vettel's gap, but at the moment he's still 40 seconds behind his teammate. Leclerc's had to come in. Slightly slow getaway as well, as he makes his 2nd pit stop. I wonder how many people are going to have to make 2 pit stops here today. It may not be the only car. So Hamilton is our race leader. He has a 6-second advantage over Valtteri Bottas. 3rd place, there is Max Verstappen, as Charles Leclerc rejoins, but is being lapped. In 4th place, Daniel Ricciardo. In 5th place, Kimi Raikkonen. And now into 6th, it's Sebastian Vettel. We're on lap 37, and Hamilton's advantage is all under control. We've heard on the radio that there have been some worries for him about the drivability of the engine, but nothing recently. It all seems to be going to plan. The lap times are holding up. He's in the 1 minute 34s at the moment. Slightly faster lap times coming from the two Red Bull drivers. 1:33.7 for Daniel Ricciardo on that last lap. So that's the fastest of that lead group. Still a little way away from the existing lap record, which may well hold out here. Still Kimi Raikkonen's lap record of a 1:31.5. Charles Leclerc back in... Oh, sorry. This is the replay of the slow stop.
It looked like all the wheels were on board, but the lollipop man stood for a bit longer at the front, so concerned by something. There was certainly no other car coming down the pit lane, so it wasn't for that.
Let's put him out in last place now. Alonso, having moved up past his teammate Van Dorn, is now in 16th position, having been last for a little while after his 5-second penalty was imposed at his pit stop. We're now looking at Alonso on the attack, in fact. Now it's a Stroll again, and these two had their instant early on, and he moves aggressively back.
I know, I sat back there for a moment because I thought Alonso was going to try and sideswipe Stroll, but I think what he's done is just give Stroll a little bit of his own driving when he's moved across and forced Alonso off at the chicane. You're going to be careful though, and doing anything too aggressive at high speed.
It's the second race in a row they've been running close to one another. Stroll followed Alonso in the last race.
Have you gone for a break, Bono? Because I haven't had an update for a while.
Yeah, back now, Lewis.
That's nice. Little joke on Peter Boddington's part. Yeah, back now. I think he's been 100% focused on what Lewis is doing. But clearly, there's not a lot to say at this point because Mercedes have got this totally under control.
Yeah, there's no pleasing racing drivers, is there? We've had Lewis in the past say to Bono, kind of let me be, just let me focus, let me concentrate. And there he is now, obviously so comfortable with the 5-second gap, not concerned with whatever the hesitations were from the engine earlier in the Grand Prix, that he suddenly thought, well, I'm feeling a bit lonely out here. I used to, although you have all the information that's necessary inside the cockpit, there's something reassuring about a pit board being hung out to you, and if my pit board guy didn't hang it out for a lap, it used to trouble me. It made me feel all alone.
Throw you completely. The Red Bulls are lapping quicker than Bottas, David. Is that something we should be focusing on a little bit as Alonso gets past Sergei Sirotkin? He's into 14th position. There was a little bit of debris down there, I noticed. But yeah, that Red Bull pace looking quite strong at the moment.
Yeah, well, I think Bottas should be concerned. We've got Verstappen at just 2.2 seconds behind. So Verstappen definitely getting himself into a position, and with some traffic ahead as well. We've got Van Dorn, we've got Stroll, that Bottas has to make his way past. So this is an opportunity for Verstappen.
He's the odd one out of the top four, and that he's on the yellow-walled soft tyre, and all those around him, well, Hamilton, Bottas and Ricciardo and Raikkonen, they're all on the medium compound. Looks like the end of the day for Nico Hülkenberg as the car gets pushed back into the garage. He's been really unlucky in the recent run of races, and it looks like it's another retirement to add to the tally so far this year. Bitterly disappointing for him. He's only had 1 point in the last 5 Grand Prix, and clearly he's not going to add any to his equation this time.
It's a big knock I'm getting in turn 3. That's something I need to avoid in 6th gear.
We can see the issue, Daniel, but you don't need to avoid it. You can stay as you are. You can try just holding gear 5 before turn 4. See if that helps.
So not all sweetness and light, and in fact in the last couple of laps Verstappen has been a bit quicker than Daniel Ricciardo. Verstappen getting the gap down to Bottas to 2.2 seconds on that last lap, but it's come down even further as we look at the live timing, 1.4 seconds. So this really is an opportunity perhaps. Look in the background, there's Verstappen as Bottas is in traffic.
Well, that traffic has cost Bottas a little bit, but it's now going to cause difficulties for Verstappen. So Bottas crucially clears the traffic ahead of the S's. And Verstappen, he's going to lose well, in actual fact, as I say that, the McLaren of Van Dorn gets out of the way, so no time lost there. Let's see how he gets on with the Williams. Oh, that was a slightly awkward situation to Stroll there slowing down and leaving the door open, but just Verstappen was a little bit uncertain whether he was going to leave a car's width or not, so that would have cost him a bit of time.
Sirotkin has just made a pit stop, by the way, so the 1 or 2 teams further down the order who are struggling to keep these tyres alive. He was on the medium compound as well. So on some cars, it's not working that well, as we saw with the Sauber of Leclerc. And off wide has gone Leclerc. Leclerc on the soft tyre has gone through the gravel trap. I think he's kept it going. Down at the Degners, the second Degner. He ran wide there a couple of times in practice, but I think this time he launched it right out wide into the gravel trap.
Yeah, he looks like he's going to retire that car.
There's something broken. Something is broken. Oh, not touchable. Yeah, something broke.
Okay, well, we didn't.
Okay, Charles, stop the car, and remember, switch off procedure, switch off.
We haven't seen the start of that incident, but let's assume it was either at the first Degner that's put him off into the gravel, or as he braked into the second Degner. Parked that car in a sensible spot, looked for the orange markings on the barriers there, so they should be able to recover that car easily.
Let's have a look at what happened then.
Okay, up through Dunlop, approaching the first Degner.
Heard a little whistle.
Yeah, what was that? But good skills keeping it out of the wall. What we really need is to see if we could any evidence of something going wrong as he went through the first part of those two very fast right-hand corners.
So that's a shame. We've lost the Sauber of Leclerc. We've just got yellow flags in that area, but otherwise it's not affecting the racing. So just the one of the Renaults left. That is Carlos Sainz.
That's a slow-moving car. That's a Mercedes. What if it's a virtual safety car? Okay, I was concerned there for a minute.
Yeah, that came up quite late on our screens, the virtual safety car being deployed. But Lewis Hamilton just slowing down as a result of that virtual safety car. And presumably they feel that the car's in a dangerous position.
No, they don't want to take any risks, given what has happened here in the past.
And Charles found a seat anyway. Maybe he's going to get a ride back. There are little motorbikes that run around the side of the track here in Japan, which might be able to get a lift back with one of those guys. It's a sad way to end his first race at Suzuka.
Just as well he packed a bottle of water, so he's having an early bath. He can have a refreshing drink.
Last time he failed to finish a race was the Belgian Grand Prix when he was involved in that accident at the start. He's had 3 so far, so it's a 4th non-finish of the year. Now it looks like Mercedes is getting ready for another pit stop.
No, Hamilton's gone through, so it's not for him.
Well, let's see what happens here. Are they going to have to make it into a 2-stop race? The virtual safety car is ending. We're back up to racing speed, and both drivers have stayed out there. So Valtteri Bottas is still there, but he's under pressure from Verstappen.
Yeah, Verstappen definitely gains through that phase of pit stops and virtual safety car. We've seen that a few times. It doesn't seem a perfect system. That you're relying on the drivers following a delta on the dashboard, which in theory, well, an absolute fact, they should be the same delta. But it does look like Verstappen's been able to close on the back of Bottas.
Just 0.8 of a second between them, so he will be in DRS zone unless that gap changes significantly before we get to that area of the circuit. Daniel Ricciardo some way further behind.
He's dropped back, hasn't he, through that range of stops. He was about 2.5 seconds behind, 3 seconds behind Verstappen before all the traffic and incidents. He's now dropped to 9 seconds behind.
Yeah, certainly Max seems to have made the most of that virtual safety car period. Well, you can vote for your driver of the day. The vote closes at the end of the race. Who's it going to be? Certainly for Lewis Hamilton, it's all been pretty straightforward at this point. Out in front and with a useful advantage over Bottas and Verstappen. But it's Bottas that's coming under a bit of increasing pressure now from the Dutchman. He's on target for a podium anyway, but there is an opportunity maybe to make it a second place. He's actually finished second here the last 2 years, Max Verstappen. And it'd be a great opportunity for him to get 3 podium finishes here in Suzuka in a row. He's not done that at any other circuit yet in his career. And he's already in position to do that. Meanwhile, there's been a change further back, and Sergio Perez has managed to find his way past Romain Grosjean.
Well, this is not possible. I was plus 0.3. It's not possible.
Understood, we're working on it.
He has got to give me the position now.
Oh, so it was to do with the restart on the virtual safety car?
Yeah, he obviously feels that he was running absolutely to the delta, and he thinks that Force India has gained an advantage there. So that'll all be in the data.
Interesting, in Hungary, I remember that Grosjean got Alonso fairly on the restart after a virtual safety car, so he clearly knows the rules. Bit of a lock-up. Bottas and Verstappen is ever so close as they get into traffic now, and now finally Alonso is out of the way of them, but Verstappen had a real chance.
Yeah, that Bottas locked up, obviously losing a bit of downforce behind McLaren, and then Verstappen was compromised a bit in accelerations. But just looking at the fastest lap from Daniel Ricciardo, 33.2. Well, Verstappen and Bottas are in the 36s.
Where's that suddenly come from? Yeah, very quick lap.
Missed a corner somewhere.
I do wonder. So a really good lap for Daniel Ricciardo last time around. Karun.
David, that's because Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen had a bit of their lap under the VSC. So Hamilton actually was at 38 on that lap. That's why you're seeing a big difference.
Okay, thanks for that. But it still gives Daniel Ricciardo the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. And in the case of many of the teams, fastest lap means bonus.
I think what's happening here is that the Mercedes are struggling on this tyre a bit. That was how close Verstappen got.
Yeah, Alonso did get out of the way of Bottas, but then Bottas locking up and managed to cut back to the inside. But that will be not a big flat spot, but certainly a small flat spot on the front of his front right tyre.
Trying to get an eye on the tyre at all of Bottas. They flash by you so quickly on this Suzuka circuit, it's actually quite hard to take a look at the tyres.
Unbelievable how Bottas lapped us. We lost 4 seconds.
Yeah, so he's frustrated because he gave Bottas room, but in the end it cost him time. He had to sort of get off the throttle, wait for them to go past. So 4 seconds he reckons it cost. Seems a lot.
That seems that seems way too much.
But Fernando's always loving working this stuff out, isn't he? He's like a calculator out there on track.
Well, running around in 14th, I guess he's going to do something to entertain himself.
Karun, you've got more on Romain Grosjean?
Yeah, that's right, Ben. He's been on the radio carrying on this argument with his engineer about that Perez move. The engineer comes back saying, right, just get on with it and stay within 5 seconds. They're optimistic, obviously, of getting that Force India penalised with a 5-second penalty, but at the moment, it doesn't yet seem like a clear decision.
Okay, we're watching Brendan Hartley here chasing Marcus Ericsson, the Sauber versus the Toro Rosso. That fastest lap, new fastest lap in fact for Hamilton, so he's now going quicker still than we saw Daniel Ricciardo go. And if these guys were to switch onto a new set of tyres, then the lap record would definitely be under threat. I'm not sure it will be on these current tyres, however, from the front runners. And they're still having a think there at Red Bull about what to do next. GP, Max Verstappen's engineer, talking to him. He's got a very good opportunity here, Max Verstappen, so close to the back of Valtteri Bottas as they continue to go through the traffic here. Much less than a second, just 0.6 of a second between them. Can Verstappen find an opportunity? Still got a few laps to go here. Second place at Suzuka seems to have his name on it in recent years, and there's every chance, you know, that he's going to be able to do it again here. I think they're too far away from Hamilton. Even if Max's tyres are holding up better, I think you'd have to say the gap to Lewis Hamilton would be too great to make up. But there's a very real opportunity to grab that second place slot, but where's he going to do it? Because the Mercedes is so quick in a straight line, it's going to take one of his heroic, brave manoeuvres to go through.
Well, Sauber gets out of the way of this battle. That's going to just put Verstappen slightly offline as he leaves the chicane. He will get DRS, but I think his acceleration would have been compromised being on that shallower line. Straight line speed of the Mercedes is going to be too strong for the Red Bull, even with DRS.
He's just been told on the radio that he's got 2 goes with what they call mode 7 between turn 13 and turn 2. So that's out of Spoon Curve, that back stretch through 130R. So that's what they're obviously having a think about.
Yeah, well, that will be as much power as they can possibly deliver from that engine. They've got to, you know, like, even though reliability has generally been a lot better in modern Formula 1, the restricted 3 power units, so they're going to make that last for the entire season.
Meanwhile, the race between Perez, Grosjean and Ocon is still pretty close, and although Grosjean is within the 5 seconds,
left front's taken a pretty big hit after safety car.
Raikkonen behind also reporting he's struggling on his medium tyres.
these medium tyres definitely are finding it tough in the latter stages of the race. This quite high track temperature as well. But Daniel Ricciardo will be focused on holding on to his 4th place, defending it from Kimi Räikkönen. But that's why he was told that Kimi's also struggling, because it means he's not under so much threat. The gap to Vettel, still 40 seconds, by the way. That hasn't changed. So since he got into that 6th place, he hasn't been able to close up to the leaders, as you would expect, really. He's lapping at much the same pace as them, but he can't go any quicker. So he's not closing down any further. Perez in a good 7th position. Having started in 9th place on the grid. Grosjean having dropped to 8th place after that restart after the virtual safety car. He is maintaining the gap at under 5 seconds so far, though. So if the penalty were to be applied, then he could make up for it. But there's been no sign of investigation into that. So whatever the stewards have been approached from, maybe from the Haas team, there's been no announcement of any change. Ocon has still remained within 1.2 seconds of Grosjean. Gasly still in the points in the Toro Rosso. But outside the points is Carlos Sainz, quite close to the back of Gasly. Behind them we've got Ericsson and Hartley, Alonso and Van Dorn, and the rear is being brought up by the 2 Williams cars of Sirotkin and Lance Stroll. 3 cars out of this race, Charles Leclerc, Nico Hülkenberg, and early on Kevin Magnussen. But really the question has to be, can Valtteri Bottas continue to fend off Max Verstappen? The gap has opened up again. That last couple of laps he was within DRS range, but Bottas has just done enough now to pull away again a little bit. Christian Horner joins us from the pit wall. Christian, that really looks like an opportunity for Max Verstappen, but just now Bottas is just eking that gap open again.
Yeah, I think it looks like he struggles in dirty air ahead, Valtteri, so Max is able to close up, but in clean air you can see he seems to be able to have the pace to respond.
Been a good drive from Daniel Ricciardo, considering he started so far back.
Yeah, been a super drive from Daniel. So, you know, good teamwork as well to get him out ahead of Kimi. And, yeah, he's driven a very strong Grand Prix considering where he started.
And how are these medium tyres? I mean, you've got a car on each tyre, the medium and the soft. Are the mediums still holding up all right?
Yeah, the mediums are holding up okay. I mean, there's different corners, punish different axles, and obviously it's a matter of managing those tyres. But you know, the Mercedes is starting to get a little bit of blistering, and so you know, obviously we're trying to keep the pressure on as best we can.
So 2nd place still a possibility.
Well, we never give up.
Okay,
keep
thanks.
Fighting all the way to the end.
Cheers, Christian. And Bottas making a mistake up at the chicane. Did he gain an advantage? That's the question. I think he'd be allowed to get away with it once, David, and Verstappen is still with him.
Yeah, he'll get away with it once, because quite clearly you wouldn't want to lock up and run the risk of flat spotting just to try and shortcut the chicane. And there's always a risk when you run off across the artificial grass as well, that you can pick up cuts on your tyres. But he's vulnerable, and Max Verstappen will be able to sniff that. Interesting that the medium tyre, the harder compound, is struggling so much, and it just shows the variability of the temperature thresholds of which these Pirelli tyres operate.
Yeah, the soft tyre probably happier in the higher temperatures that we've got here, and they have remained pretty constant throughout. Such a different day from the one we had in qualifying. So Bottas really has to get it together. This is where he ran wide last time, but he's got the braking right on this occasion, and Max Verstappen is still tucked in behind him. 5 laps to go. Lewis Hamilton on target.
Keep him under pressure, keep it clean.
Yeah, they want the 3rd place if nothing else, but it would be lovely for them to find a way past Valtteri Bottas. So the pressure is going to be intense on the Finn, but Lewis Hamilton's got that good gap. He's got 11 seconds now over Valtteri Bottas. So I think he'll be fairly relaxed about that, and hoping that he can just stay out there for his big championship contender. Today has not worked out at all well. Sebastian Vettel down in 6th place. Ferrari likely to swap the 2 around before the end of the Grand Prix, David?
Well, they should, if they can, and there's no reason why they can't. Just if they can get Raikkonen is well, quite a long distance away, but it's the sensible thing to do from a points point of view. It's a thin chance now for Vettel to battle for this championship. Yeah. We've heard it. It's not been all plain sailing for Mercedes. They have had some drivability issues. Lewis Hamilton a little bit uncomfortable earlier in the race.
He's in between two drivers that are fighting for the final point, actually, in this race. Pierre Gasly's up ahead, Carlos Sainz behind. They've been pretty close in recent laps, but Sainz, of course, now having let Hamilton through, it's cost him a little bit of time. But that could still go all the way to the wire for the single point in 10th position. Gasly hanging on to it at the moment, ahead of Carlos Sainz. We know that Hülkenberg out of this race and Hartley too far down to score anything here. So Hamilton gets past both of those guys, and now he's got a little bit of clear air up ahead of him again. It's quite a long time, but he will be catching Ocon before the end.
Yeah, the engine is so unbelievable.
Yeah, he's not happy, is he, with the power? They are running the latest Spec C Renault engine in the Red Bull. It hasn't run many occasions. There's still work going on the software side of things with that engine. But he's clearly not feeling he's got enough to really go on the attack, and Bottas has just opened that gap up a bit more. Charles Leclerc watching from the sideline, sadly, after going out of the Grand Prix with a problem on his car, which pitched him off through the gravel. Daniel Ricciardo there in 4th place, should be comfortable for him. Kimi Raikkonen still going quite slowly. I do wonder whether he's just backing off a little bit now in an attempt to make sure that Sebastian Vettel will go ahead of him before the end. Then we have Sergio Perez, who's lining up to finish in 7th place here today. That would be another solid points performance for Force India. It looks like they're going to score a double points finish again.
Okay, their pace is good. Let's keep pushing. There's 4 more laps to go. 4 more laps.
Just 4 laps to go, and everything going to plan so far for them. I think Daniel Ricciardo will be pretty happy. He'd love to get a podium. He was telling us earlier on this week that the podiums have been so elusive ever since the victory in Monaco. He really wants to finish off the season with Red Bull, his last few races with that team before he switches to Renault, with a podium somewhere. I don't think he's going to get it on this occasion. I think his teammate is going to nab it. Now, look at this, Sainz versus Gasly. This is for position, and Sainz getting the toe and getting past. I thought it would be harder than that for him to go through, but clearly he's driven a really good lap after they were lapped by Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, well, we know that Honda came with more power, and that certainly seemed to help with the performance during qualifying, but what we didn't know is how sustained they could deliver that power, and it looks like, and the answer to that question is that not enough over the course of the entire Grand Prix. So that looked fairly straightforward for Sainz to get the pass.
Shame for Honda, though, because it means that they're not likely to get a point here today as Gasly goes down into 11th place. That'll disappoint many of their fans who are here. Max Verstappen still chasing, still looking to try and get away past Bottas, but he's 1.8 seconds behind. And you get into the phase of the race now where they start thinking, well, should we just be looking after the car, bring it home in one piece, get another podium finish out of it if we can, because Valtteri Bottas has been able to fend him off so far. Clearly nothing, it wasn't quite right with the car a few laps ago, but he seems to have established where those new limits are, and he's hanging on, and Mercedes are definitely on target for yet another 1-2 finish. They haven't had so many of those this year, actually, certainly not as in some of the recent years, because it's been such a big battle with Ferrari, but it will be their 4th 1-2 finish of 2018, and what a perfect way to come to Japan and disappear with 43 points added to their constructors tally, and with Ferrari really disappointing because they're only going to be finishing in 5th and 6th places. They may well be swapped around. You can see, looking at those lap times, or the gaps between them, that Raikkonen and Vettel are getting closer and closer to one another, so it may well be swapped before the end. But to be honest, it's all heading very much in Lewis Hamilton's direction now. Almost impossible for Ferrari to come back from this weekend.
Well, we've been saying it all weekend. The stats would suggest it's never been done before, but motor racing can be cruel at times, and Hamilton's had a good run of reliability. You could argue that that's what cost him the championship when he was teamed with Nico Rosberg. Some late reliability issues in the season, but he's had a very strong year, and alongside Valtteri with this particular car, he seems to have been in the form of his life. You can see quite a bit of blistering on the left rear of Bottas's car. That's allowing Verstappen to get ever closer.
Lewis Hamilton, if it stays like this, will be 65 points ahead in the championship, and if he finishes the next race 75 points ahead or more, then he will wrap up the championship in the United States. He's done it there in the past, and he's done it in Mexico as well. Those are the next 2 races on the calendar, and it's looking more and more likely he's going to be able to achieve that. Max Verstappen still not quite there. We're going on to the final lap, and it does look as though Valtteri Bottas is going to be able to hold on. Wouldn't Max just love to be able to make the move on this last lap and reclaim second place? He's finished in second place here the last 2 years. I don't think he's going to manage it this time though, but he will be giving it his all, and Bottas knows he cannot afford a single tiny error on a track that really makes you pay the price. He's got to keep his focus here. Up in front of both of these guys, Lewis Hamilton is having a pretty relaxed time of it. He's got a 13-second lead over Valtteri Bottas, comfortably stroking it home towards another victory. Verstappen fighting for second, behind these two, Ricciardo in fourth, then Raikkonen and Vettel.
You have the overtake available, battery is full.
He's been given every possibility, all the high-power modes he's been given. So, let's watch. Is there going to be any chance? Oh, he's had a lock-up. The exit from here is one of the crucial bits of the whole lap, and I think that might just have been enough to drop him another car length away from Valtteri Bottas. We'll have to see, because he really wanted a good run there and through this corner, because that then defines your speed all the way into the chicane. From here on in, it's flat out now until they break for the chicane, and I don't think he's going to be close enough. Lewis Hamilton exits the chicane here at Suzuka. He wins the Japanese Grand Prix. It's his 9th win of 2018. He's now matched his total number of victories from last year. It's his 4th win at Suzuka in 5 years. What an achievement. Second place goes to Valtteri Bottas. It's a 1-2 for Mercedes. Verstappen fights his way through to third position, but never quite was able to get alongside the other Mercedes. And fourth place will go to Daniel Ricciardo, but it's Lewis Hamilton yet again, his 71st career victory.
Get in there, Lewis. Absolutely perfect weekend, absolutely perfect. So that's the 50th win and a Grand Slam this week.
That's his 50th victory with Mercedes. That's a lovely statistic to have. 71 in total when you add in his time for McLaren as well. That means he's only 20 short now of the all-time record of Michael Schumacher. And that becomes a more and more achievable number, doesn't it? And it was a Grand Slam as well for Lewis Hamilton. That means he had the pole position. He didn't actually get fastest lap though. That went to Sebastian Vettel. There is Vettel crossing the line, and they have not swapped the two Ferraris. Does that make you feel they've given up on this year's championship? It does feel like that to me. Kimi Raikkonen was allowed to finish in 5th place. Sebastian Vettel finished down in 6th, so actually the points gap is going to be bigger even than I suggested. A couple of points bigger, 67 points the gap, and Lewis Hamilton is very much on his way.
Woohoo! Guys, man, I love you guys. I love driving the car. I love this track. I'm so happy, man. I'm so appreciate everything you've done for me. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, delighted Lewis Hamilton, who is so much on target now for that 5th world title. It's Mercedes' 5th win in a row here at Suzuka. I mean, they really have dominated this race ever since 2014 when these hybrid turbo engine rules came in. They are amazing around this circuit, and although they've had to fight for it on occasions, this weekend they have looked dominant. Yes, Bottas had to work pretty hard there to hold on to second position, but nonetheless, Lewis Hamilton has now recorded that 50th victory with the team, and I think he's also managed to match Sebastian Vettel in getting 4 wins in 5 years here at Suzuka, but it is his 5th in total, and that's nice to see. Daniel Ricciardo's been voted driver of the day with his forceful drive through from 15th on the grid and ended up finishing in 4th place. So he missed out on the podium, but at least after all the dramas and disappointment that he suffered in qualifying yesterday, he's been able to enjoy race day here in Japan, and he's probably earned himself a few more new fans on top of that. Sebastian Vettel finishes down in 6th place on this occasion. Ferrari finished 5th and 6th, and that means it's made a big difference in the Constructors' Championship as well. It's nearly 80 points. It's 78 points now, the gap between Mercedes and Ferrari. So you've got to say they are utterly on target to be able to win both championships, both the Drivers' and the Constructors' Championships. And there's nothing more really for them to think about in that sense. Further down the order, Bottas has also been able to extend his lead over Raikkonen a little bit more in the championship. 7th place, by the way. We've now got 3 drivers tied for best of the rest in the Drivers' Championship. Perez has moved up to 53 points with Magnussen and Hulkenberg. So we're going to have a wonderful battle going into the final rounds for the other part of the championship, for best of the rest behind the top teams. But there's no denying who's on target for the outright title now. Not after Russia and Japan. 2 victories, one assisted by his teammate in Russia a week ago. On this occasion, he didn't need any help. He had the race sorted out from the beginning, from qualifying, when he put in that pole position lap, got away at the start, and he fully deserves to have this huge championship lead over Sebastian Vettel. Celebration time for Lewis Hamilton. Well, the crew might be used to this feeling, but it's still a wonderful moment for them, and especially when it's a 1-2 finish as well. Couldn't have gone better for them. 1-2 on the grid and 1-2 in the race as well. So David has left the commentary box. As you can tell, he's going to be down there to speak to our top 3 and get their immediate reactions.
Lewis, congratulations, another dominant display. You were enjoying that?
I loved it. I'm naturally very, very happy. I think the whole weekend's been incredibly strong from the team. It's a great 1-2 for Mercedes and a true showing of, you know, the real strength and depth that we have as a team. And this track is the best track in the world. You know, they don't make I don't know why they don't make tracks like this anymore, but every second of the run, it was just great fun. And yeah, the car felt, I wasn't able to look after my tires the way I wanted and just manage the pace. But it's really weird because, you know, I've obviously been racing a long, long time, but the happiness I have inside is as high as always. So it's a great feeling.
Well, just looking at your tires, you don't seem to be too bad on blistering, so you were just able to manage. But we did hear you had some engine issues earlier in the Grand Prix, so, you know, it wasn't all plain sailing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I asked the team and they said it was okay, but really, these guys here you see at the track, that the guys back at the factory, you know, these guys work so hard to create this beast, and I'm just so proud and grateful that I have the chance to, you know, to do what I do in it. And been racing a long, long time now, but it's, as I said, that feels like one of the first.
If you win in America in 2 weeks' time and Sebastian's not second, you'll win your 5th world title.
Honestly, I really take it one step at a time. But this is you know, each week you have a positive weekend and then you go to another Grand Prix and you're not sure how you're going to fare and how you're going to perform, because there's still gaps in between. But I think we've gone from strength to strength this year as a team, so I really hope that we can. And Austin is generally a good track for us, and I can't wait to unleash this beast there.
Congratulations, Lewis. Great drive. Just coming to Valtteri. Bit of love between teammates. Valtteri, you were absolutely setting the pace in Russia. It looked like you struggled a little bit more on this circuit, and you had some real tire management to do at the end against Max.
Well, yeah. Initially in the race, everything felt good. You know, I knew what I had to do, so I was just really executing the plan. Pace felt good, but in the end of the second stint, I had some blistering in the rear left, which made it a bit more tricky. But anyway, for me, the job was to get to the finish line with P2.
We heard from Lewis he had some engine management issues early in the Grand Prix. Did you have anything like that, or was it just purely on the tyre blistering that was your main concern?
Not really, no issues. We managed to save the engine a bit because the pace was so good, but no issues otherwise.
Congratulations on that second place. Max, you were pretty consistent here in Japan. 3rd straight podium. It was very close with Valtteri at the end, but you locked up into the hairpin on the last lap, so the opportunity slipped away.
Yeah, we didn't really have a chance, but I think in general to nurse the car home with the damage I had on the floor. Yeah, we did a great job. The strategy initially was a bit tricky with the super soft tires, but then once we got the soft tires on, it was actually working really well. And you could see definitely at the end, I think we had the pace, even with the damage. So really happy with that.
Well, you had 2 incidents with the Ferrari drivers. First of all, Kimi, and you got a 5-second penalty for that, which we heard on the radio you weren't happy about. And then a failed attempt from Sebastian to overtake you down into Spoon. So take us through those 2.
Yeah, so I braked a little bit too late into the chicane, so I did everything I could to get back onto the track, and I think I did it in a safe way because I was not crazy fast onto the track, but Kimi chose the wrong line in the chicane. He could have also just waited for me to come back on the track, and we touched a little bit, but I think it's really ridiculous, those 5 seconds, but anyway, we managed to survive that. And then even before, of course, the pit stop, the touch with Sebastian, I think in that corner you can't overtake. I even gave him space, but he understeered into my car, and it's a shame, but yeah, still happy to be on the podium.
Okay, we'll go and enjoy that podium. Well done.
Keeping that left rear on the temperature.
Yeah.
What temperature did you get to?
I think the maximum 136.
Okay. 130, 132. I think that's what they're talking about. Yeah.
He was on the soft.
What happened to him? I think he crashed. Max got to oh, that, oh yeah, shit, they both crashed. Shit. Shit. He crashed into Max. Yeah, it must have been a good start. You guys go away. Fortunate.
What's that?
Fortunate to get away with.
Correct. So I got a 5-second time penalty for that.
But it didn't affect your time, right?
Well, I did the pit stop still. I was in the same position, but before that, Sepp and I, we collided.
Yeah.
So I was like missing a part of my floor.
The soft was very good in the end.
Yeah, no, it was alright. Initially, the first few laps.
Like 30 laps.
Yeah. No, it was alright.
Okay. Okay.
Well, little discussion going on in the pre-podium room between 3 fairly relaxed-looking individuals, but it was quite a battle for Valtteri Bottas to fend off Max Verstappen to the end there, and a great drive from Max, although he did start in 3rd place, and at one time it looked as though he might get a 2nd place out of it. In the end, it wasn't quite the case. Quick reminder that off the podium, of course, Ricciardo and Raikkonen. Vettel was 6th, Perez 7th, Grosjean 8th, Ocon was 9th, and Carlos Sainz took the final point in 10th place for Renault. So that's a little bit of an encouragement for them, particularly with Grosjean missing out on 7th place when Perez got past him. There was no news of any penalty so far for Sergio Perez, and Haas would have liked to have scored a few more points than that. It means that Haas are still some 8 points behind Renault in the Constructors' Championship. Force India, though, are getting a little bit closer to McLaren, so they'll be looking to try and get even closer. They're some 15 points behind. Toro Rosso are still just 3 points ahead of Sauber. Out onto the podium they come then, and Max Verstappen is celebrating his 3rd consecutive podium in Suzuka. For Valtteri Bottas, it's his 1st podium here. This is his best ever result at the Japanese Grand Prix. But for Lewis Hamilton, it's his 6th podium at Suzuka, his 4th win here in 5 years.
The British and German national anthems.
smile says it all for Lewis Hamilton. He's relaxed, he's enjoying the moment yet again, having taken such a well-deserved victory.
Minister of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and
He
Tourism.
is going to pick up the trophy.
Congratulations to Lewis Hamilton.
For the win here in Japan. It's becoming one of those tracks that we can almost regularly expect him to take the win. He's not quite up to Michael Schumacher's number of victories in Japan. The great Michael Schumacher took 6 victories. All of his wins were at Suzuka. Lewis Hamilton, of course, has raced both at Fuji and here at Suzuka, but his total is now up to 5. It's Matt Dean who's getting the Constructors' Trophy on behalf of Mercedes, chief mechanic at that team, and a team that's already now on its route to winning the Constructors' Championship yet again. Valtteri Bottas picking up his first trophy here in Suzuka. It's the 80th time that he's scored points. It's also his 30th ever podium. Puts him one ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. They were both tied on 29 podiums coming into this race. And Max Verstappen, he picks up his 7th podium finish of the 2018 season, his 3rd in a row around the Suzuka circuit. 50 wins with Mercedes since joining the team in 2013 is a remarkable tally. Only one short of Prost's career total of 51. And as he racks up the numbers, Lewis Hamilton is getting closer and closer to that 5th world title.